The year is 1917. The place is the skies over Flanders in western Belgium. The First World War is in its third bloody year. Below, the trenches stretch for hundreds of miles, a scar across the earth where millions of men live in mud, rats, and fear. Above, a different kind of war is being fought, a war of wood, canvas, wire, and courage. A war where men duel at 15,000 feet in open cockpits, with the wind tearing at their goggles and the cold freezing their fingers to the triggers. And in these skies, one man is feared above all others. His aircraft is painted blood red, from the propeller spinner to the tail rudder. His fellow pilots call him the Red Devil. The British call him the Red Baron. His name is Manfred von Richthofen. He is a German cavalry officer turned fighter pilot. He is 25 years old. He has piercing blue eyes, a cold demeanor, and a hunter's instinct. He has already shot down more than 50 enemy aircraft, more than any pilot in history. He keeps a silver trophy for each victory, a small engraved cup. He has a silver cup for every one of his kills. By the time he is finished, he will have 80 cups, 80 victories. No other pilot in the war will come close. The Allies have a standing order. If you see the red plane, do not engage. Run, hide, pray. But the Red Baron does not run. He hunts. He stalks his prey like a wolf, diving out of the sun, closing to point-blank range, and firing his machine guns until the enemy's plane bursts into flames or spirals into the ground. He is not a hero to his enemies. He is a nightmare. But to the German people, he is a legend, a knight of the sky, a symbol of honor in a war that has lost all honor. This is the story of the Red Baron, the ace who ruled the skies, the man with 80 victories, and the death that still haunts aviation history. To understand the Red Baron, you must first understand the war he fought. The First World War was the first major conflict to feature aircraft as weapons. At the beginning of the war in 1914, planes were used for reconnaissance, flying over enemy lines to see where the troops were. Pilots waved at each other. They carried pistols and rifles to take potshots. By 1915, machine guns were mounted on planes. By 1916, dedicated fighter aircraft, nimble, fast, and deadly, were dueling over the trenches. The pilots became celebrities. They were the knights of the New Age, young men in leather helmets and silk scarves, fighting personal duels in the vast cathedral of the sky. The German Air Force, the Luftstreitkräfte, produced many aces, but none like Manfred von Richthofen. Richthofen was born into an aristocratic Prussian family in 1892. He was a baron, hence the Red Baron. He was an excellent horseman and athlete. When the war began, he served as a cavalry scout on both the eastern and western fronts. But cavalry was obsolete. Trench warfare had made horses useless. Richthofen applied for a transfer to the flying service. He became an observer, the man in the back seat who took photographs and fired a machine gun. In September 1916, he flew as a pilot for the first time. He was not a natural flyer. He crashed his first solo landing. He was not a great marksman. He had to learn. But he had something that could not be taught: the hunter's instinct. He did not want to be the best pilot. He wanted to be the best killer, and he studied his craft relentlessly. He learned to attack from the sun so the enemy could not see him. He learned close to within 50 yards before firing, so close he could see the enemy pilot's face. He learned to fire in short bursts, aiming for the pilot or the engine. not the wings. He learned to conserve ammunition, 200 rounds per gun, enough for about 15 seconds of continuous fire. He learned to disengage when the odds were against him. He was not reckless. He was cold. He was calculating. He was a predator. Richthofen's first confirmed victory came on September 17, 1916. He shot down a British FE. 2B over the village of Lagnicourt, he ordered a silver cup engraved with the date and the type of aircraft. He would order a cup for every victory, 80 cups. The silver became scarce as the war went on. He switched to pewter. He kept the cups in a glass cabinet in his quarters. He would show them to visitors. He was proud of his kills, not because he hated the enemy, but because he respected them. He wrote, "I have never shot down an enemy without feeling a deep respect for the man who climbed into the sky to fight. We are not murderers. We are hunters. And the hunt is the oldest and noblest of pursuits." That is a strange sentiment to modern ears, but Richthofen was a product of his time, an aristocrat who believed in honor, duty, and the code of the duel. He treated his fallen enemies with respect. He sent letters of condolence to their families. He attended the funerals of British pilots when they landed behind German lines. He was a killer. He was also a gentleman. In January 1917, Richthofen was given command of a fighter squadron, Jaster 11. He painted his Albatros D3 bright red. His squadron followed suit, painting their planes in red, yellow, green, and other bright colors. They became known as the Flying Circus, not because of the colors, but because they were mobile, moving by train to wherever the fighting was hottest. Richthofen led from the front. He did not ask his pilots to do anything he would not do. He shot down more planes than any of them. He was not a distant commander. He was the tip of the spear. In April 1917, the Flying Circus achieved its greatest month, Bloody April, to the British. The German pilots, led by Richthofen, shot down over 150 British aircraft. Richthofen alone shot down 22. His fame spread. The British newspapers called him the Red Baron. The name stuck. He was awarded the Pour le Mérite, the Blue Max, Germany's highest military honor. He was promoted to captain. He was 25 years old. He was the most famous pilot in the world. But the war was changing. The Allies introduced new aircraft, the Sopwith Camel and the SE-5A, that were faster and more maneuverable than the German Albatros. Richthofen was shot down in July 1917, suffering a severe head wound. He was grounded for months. He suffered from headaches, nausea, and mood swings. His doctors told him to stop flying. He refused. He returned to combat in October 1917, flying a new Fokker Dr. I triplane, a three-winged aircraft that could climb faster and turn tighter than any Allied plane. He painted it red. He continued to score victories. But something had changed. His head wound had affected his judgment. He took more risks. He stayed in combat longer. He chased enemies deeper into Allied territory. His fellow pilots worried about him. They asked him to be more careful. He laughed. He was the Red Baron. He was invincible. On April 21, 1918, Richthofen took off with his squadron to intercept a group of British Sopwith camels. The fight took them low over the Somme River, deep behind Allied lines. Richthofen spotted a British pilot, Lieutenant Wilfrid May, and gave chase. May was a novice. He was flying erratically. Richthofen followed him down to treetop level. He was so focused on his prey that he did not see the other planes around him. He did not see the Canadian pilot, Captain Roy Brown, diving on him from above. Brown fired a burst. Richthofen's plane banked sharply. He continued chasing May. He was still firing. Then another bullet hit him. This one was fatal. The shot came from the ground, from Australian machine gunners who were firing at the low-flying German planes. The bullet struck Richthofen in the chest, piercing his heart. He managed to land his plane, a controlled crash into a field near the Bray-Corby Road. He died in the cockpit. His last word, according to some accounts, was kaput, broken. He was 25 years old. The British buried him with full military honours. A chaplain read the service. A firing squad of Australian soldiers saluted. Wreaths were laid. The British pilots who had fought him sent a message to our gallant and worthy foe, his red Fokker doctor. I was taken apart and displayed in a museum in London. The Red Baron was dead. But the legend had just begun. So what can we learn from the Red Baron? First, that mastery requires obsession. Richthofen was not born a great pilot. He was not a natural marksman. He became great through relentless study and practice. He analyzed every engagement. He learned from his mistakes. He perfected his craft. Second, that courage is not the absence of fear. Richthofen was afraid. Every pilot was afraid, but he channeled his fear into focus. He used it to sharpen his senses, not to paralyze him. Third, that leadership is example. Richthofen led from the front. He did not send his men into battles. He would not fight himself. He was the first to attack and the last to leave. His men followed him because they trusted him. Fourth, that honor is possible even in war. Richthofen respected his enemies. He mourned them. He wrote to their families. He attended their funerals. He did not hate the men he killed. He respected them. That is a difficult concept in our modern age, but it is a noble one. Fifth, that even legends die. The Red Baron was invincible until he wasn't. He took one risk too many. He chased one enemy too deep. He forgot his own rules. And he paid the price. The lesson is not to avoid risk, but to understand it. The Red Baron understood risk better than anyone. But in the end, his own legend, his own invincibility, killed him. He believed he could not be shot down. He was wrong. Today, the Red Baron is the most famous fighter pilot in history. His name is known to people who know nothing else about World War I. He appears in movies, video games, comic books, and music. The German airline Lufthansa named a fleet of aircraft after him. There is a Red Baron pizza brand. There is a Red Baron amusement park ride. He has become a pop culture icon, a symbol of the romantic, chivalrous warrior that the modern world has supposedly lost. But the real Red Baron was not a cartoon. He was a man who killed 80 other men from the cockpit of a fragile machine made of wood and canvas. A man who watched his enemies fall in flames and then ordered silver cups to commemorate the event. A man who was buried by his enemies with full honors. He was not a hero to the Allies. He was a hero to the Germans. And he was a hero to anyone who believes that courage, skill, and honor are worth celebrating, even in the midst of war. The Red Baron ruled the skies for less than 2 years. In that time, he changed aerial warfare forever. He proved that the pilot, not the plane, was the weapon. He proved that the hunter's instinct could be taught. He proved that a man in a red plane could terrorize an entire army. And then he died, not in a blaze of glory, but in a muddy field, shot by a bullet from the ground. That is not a romantic death, but it is a real one. And reality, as the Red Baron knew, is always more complicated than legend. He rests now in a cemetery in Germany, moved there after the war. His grave is simple, but the sky above it is vast, and every time a fighter plane roars overhead, every time a pilot looks up and sees the sun glinting off a wing, the Red Baron is there. Not as a ghost, as a memory. As a challenge, as the ace who ruled the skies, 80 victories, one legend, and a story that will never ever be forgotten. Kaput, he said, but he was wrong. The Red Baron is not kaput. He is eternal, in the clouds, in the history, in the hearts of those who dream of flight. This is the story of Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, the ace who ruled the skies, and the legend that will never fall.